This is House Planning Help episode 234. Hello there, I'm Ben Adam Smith, and this is the podcast for you if you're interested in self-build, because I'm exploring what houses we should be building in the 21st century and try to break down the major roadblocks that may get in our way. And today, I am looking at my own performance. We are reviewing the house build. 2018 has obviously been a busy year for me. We've gone through the construction phase of this project, and it's been odd that it hasn't felt like we've got to the end. Up until very recently, you first unpack boxes, and then you've got to think a little bit about decor. We did some landscaping. We just thought, just get the major landscaping changes sorted. So all of this puts pressure on yourself, and then there was the whole internet fiasco. But you know what? It's feeling like we are there now. We're about to host Christmas. If you're sane when you get to the end of your project, do not do this. I don't know when we had that bright idea. Try and avoid that at all costs. What I'd like to do is just put my feet up and just chill. But the exact reverse of that is about to happen as we go into Christmas. The life of a self-builder, hey. So today's episode is about just looking at some of the decisions that I have made through the process. What did I do well? What could have been better? And we'll do that today. Then next time, I'm going to try and condense the entire build process into one episode and not make it go on forever. And in that, we'll just feature extracts from my audio journal. So you ready? Good. I do have one important thing to do right now. And I do this every so often, but it's very easy to forget about. And that's say thank you. As 2018 draws to a close, just thank you once again for accompanying me, for being there. Just sometimes it's almost venting, isn't it? You just get through it. Oh, this has happened, that's happened. All of these things, they get solved. That's the wonder of it. But just thank you. I hope I'm helping you on your own house build journey. Thank you for all the downloading the podcast, or whether you've sent me an email. Got loads of lovely emails as I got towards moving into the house and realizing this dream. We're hopefully in 2019 going to be organising for our hub members to come and check out the house. So that's quite exciting too. More details, I will email you if you're one of our hub members. But yeah, just a big thank you on the whole for being there. And I hope that you've found everything useful. As I mentioned, I'm hoping to draw a little bit of a line under this, because you've heard a lot about my project. I don't know whether you like that or not, but as we've got to this stage, I think the next few months, we will not be mentioning my house one bit, because we've done it lots of times. And so for old time's sake, let's go through this. And today, looking at what I did well and what I did, well, not so well. There's not actually too much on that side, which is the good thing. We'll come there in a minute. Let's do all the positive stuff first, shall we? Top of the bill, I think what we've done well is we've created a home that we love. That's what this is all about. If you can walk away saying that at the end of this and not have too many mental scars, job well done. And it's such a funny thing, because you can never guarantee, and I'm sure I mentioned this in a podcast when I was reflecting on, oh my goodness, we're about to move into the house. You don't know, is it going to feel like a home when you get there? And the funniest thing was, the second we're in there, it almost felt like we lived there for years and years and years. And I don't know whether it's that layout, because it's all instinctive, you know exactly where to go. It's been running through your mind again and again and again. And I've heard sometimes that children, for example, they don't settle in their rooms. Ours, it was just like, there's your room, hey, and they were off. So that was great. And everyone who's come round has, just made us feel welcome. So happy days there. We want for nothing. That's got to be top of the list, hasn't it? Also, I think we hired a competent team, and this takes you so far. From architecture firm, main contractor, interior designer, garden designer, any consultant that we hired for additional services. Firstly, they all seem to work together so well. I would have thought you're tripping over each other, too many cooks spoil the broth, but in this particular situation, it all seemed to work very well in integrating the team. I sometimes wonder, did we get lucky? Because you hear so many bad stories, and obviously in my position here, running the hub where we've got lots of members going through different builds, and I get to hear everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. And on this project, I don't know. I think it's perhaps this next point that's also going to come out, which is that we paid for a full service. So not only did we spend time hiring the right people, which I think was maybe the smartest move that we possibly could have made, we then said, get on with the job. You know what? I'm not going to do any of the DIY stuff. I know I would be terrible. I am Mr. DIY disaster. So we got that team in place, and then we thought, you're professionals, we're not. I'll tell you what we'll do. We will be the client on this, and there's quite enough to do, enough decisions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the self-build fatigue, and that's not even the true self-build fatigue when you've been doing loads of stuff. That must be exhausting getting towards the end of the project if you've done 1,000,001 things on your house build. Another point that I think we've done well is that we did target the Passive House standards, and I'd done that through experience of really visiting lots of homes, those that were supposedly eco homes and those that were passive houses, and just feeling there's a big difference here, even if it's just in the comfort. So we built a passive house. We now have all the benefits that go through there, and I think there are a lot of benefits. Sometimes I meet people who don't like the MVHR systems and are trying to do it all naturally vented, and it just, I'm not so sure. I think that's one thing that maybe you got to get over. And the benefits, whether it's drying your clothes, no condensation on the inside, the warm, even heat, the cooking smells disappear. It doesn't happen instantly. It just chugs along, change the air, and then it all goes. We've obviously got this large, open plan, living, dining space. And that is great because when you've got a passive house, it's all even heat. And as I mentioned about the air getting changed, so it's all fresh and so forth. I just think it's worked really well. Also on my list, I think my wife and I have worked well as a team. Yes, I'm sure there were moments when it didn't go so well, but it will really stand out if you look back and you think, oh, there was that argument and this and the other. To be honest, I can't remember anything. The one thing that sticks out is actually one of the things over the windows. That's one that I won. Yeah, Team Ben. Woo, woo, woo. But no, overall, we try to compromise with each other and talk through everything. And yes, there were day-to-day dramas where, how are we ever going to get this solved? And then it just gets solved. It's very, very strange how these things, they come up again and again and again. And you get used to that solving and then on to the next thing. And then gradually it starts to be, we've had a day without a drama going on. I also think that we brought different skills to the table, which can quite often happen in a self-build couple. Maybe I did more of the initial research, working out what we should be building, what we needed to look for in a good team. And Kay, very organized, very good at an email comes in, she'll return. Whereas I open my email twice a day and that's it. No notifications, nothing. I like to focus on one thing at a time. So she's very good at making sure that the burning priority gets dealt with. So I'm very grateful for that. Lists, updating the budget, spreadsheets. So yeah, I looked at the spreadsheets, but that's as far as I went. So I think, yes, we should pat ourselves on the back for all of those things. Now, it's very odd when you move into the house and it becomes your home, because that's all you seem to remember. It's your home. It's exactly how we used to live in our old homes as well. It's just a home. So I can't actually remember a lot of the things. I think, what else can I say? Yeah, it's working well as a home. I'm sure there will be other things that will work out at time, but I think that's it. That's all I can really mention on what have we done well through racking my brains. Maybe if I went back into the archive, I could find some other things. But for this episode, I thought it was just nice to keep everything off the top of my head, those things that are coming to mind. So what could have been better? Well, to be honest, on the whole, I think we've got a great house here that works for us. It's not going to work for everyone. Maybe the number one niggle for me, and regret in a way, was that I wanted a more ecological build. Do you see what I said? That I wanted. And one of the key things, I actually look at this as a constraint. When we started out, my wife was all about, I want to live in an old house. Right, that's not going to be great for building a new house. And we certainly don't want to be trying to recreate something from the past. I was adamant about that. So we had to find the middle ground. Kay was not too keen on having a PV array on the roof, which I would have liked. I don't think aesthetically it ever looks good, but it's just important in this day and age. You've got that opportunity. on this particular site, because we could have had a ground array, but actually it doesn't make much sense unless it's on the roof. That's the place that you would have it. So there we go. Something else that has gone up under the bridge. We also went for a masonry construction. And if I put my hands up here, some of this was because I was interested in the hub. We'd covered a great timber frame system with blown-in insulation, and all the timber was FSC confirmed, and yeah, it just worked really well for a low impact build. But I wanted something new. I want to learn something new, and masonry is what so many builds are in the UK, that I want to see it for myself and build a passive house this way. And although it can be done, I now think I understand why, say for example, that timber frame system is designed to build a passive house, and why that slots together. We've done a few podcasts recently where we've looked at different construction systems. We had Paul Jennings talking about air tightness and which construction systems work better. And then we've had Mike Hardwick more recently mentioning that actually some build systems are naturally airtight, really. You build it, you've just got to make sure those little details are sorted. And then masonry, well, there's a lot that could go wrong. And I'm pleased to say that our team have done it well. And I think that is the point, that if you get a team that buy in, it can work. And you can obviously use any construction system. But stepping back, masonry, is it good from an ecological point of view? I don't think it is, really. It's good, it's nice. I quite like the feeling of having some thermal mass in the building. Not that, because I know that there's this argument that actually it probably does much in a passive house. You've got a stable temperature already. And the sound separation, we haven't got masonry dividing up the rooms upstairs. We've got stud walls, and we haven't got a masonry beam and block floor upstairs. So I think there would be a good argument for sound separation if you'd gone that way. So we're not full masonry really either. We've got our trusses, which are all timber. So we're using a bit of timber and masonry. I guess that I could say, well, we've got some timber in the house. So for me, when I go round to what I feel are really ecological houses, I have a slight pang of envy, thinking you've done really, really well. And no, maybe in future, if I can get involved in more developments, I would like to push that. We chickened out a bit on a straw bale build, which was always the dream. There were a couple of issues with wall thickness if we were going on this particular site, because we could only build the house in a very, very small space. But I think if we'd wanted to, we could have gone ahead. We just were worried if what happens if you don't have enough money to get to the end of the build and you have to sell, and the insurance and all of these sorts of things. But as I've learnt, I think over time, really, they're not issues. They're not massive, are they? Let's move on. What else could have been better? Well, I think if we were true sticklers for the word budget, we came in with a budget, and then actually we increased our budget. Why did we increase it? Well, we got all the tender returns. They were a lot higher. Now, this is a stage where you can say, well, we back out now, and we either work to build something smaller, or we had lots of value engineering ideas to save money. We weren't prepared to make those compromises. And I think you could easily find yourself in this position. Luckily for us, we were able to go further. We were able to spend more. Yes, it hurts a bit, but we can still push ahead. And I'm pleased we did. It was the right thing to do in our situation. And on that, I think I'm just going to mention value engineering again, because I do feel it's a way, obviously, of cost cutting, and you have to cost cut when you have to cost cut. It's just as simple as that. I've heard this before, how people tend to revert to what they had originally. And I can see this in a couple of places. So I'm going to say that cost cutting doesn't always work. It'll get you somewhere. It'll get you to an end so that you have a house, everything's functional. But one of the regrets, I think, is our driveway. I like the way it looks, but it sounds so loud. We've got triple glazing here. You can hear cars go on this loose shingle. So I must mention the positive here, that we probably saved, 20, 30 grand on changing this from a resin to a shingle driveway. We've also done the same around the house. We had some paving, a path of paving around the house, and we changed that to shingle, so probably a load more saving. So we did save a lot of money. But I look at it now and think, Perhaps resin wasn't the right answer either, but I am interested what other surfaces could work and just could suit our needs better, because I don't think it works. And here's another knock on. Sometimes you find you're not using things the way you thought you were. A quick example is, say our snug room was just not getting used until it had a TV in it, because we're just thinking that TV very, very low priority. Luckily, the father-in-law came to the rescue and said, we'll get you a TV for Christmas. So we've had an early present because we're thinking that it's going to get used a lot around Christmas. And that's up. And guess what? The room's suddenly being used as it was intended. And I think a similar thing for the back door. So the back door just is not getting used at the moment. And for me, I can only talk about why I don't use it. It's because it makes it sort of trudge, 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 trudge around the house. And then trudge, trudge, trudge. Oh, stones on the bottom of my shoes. So if that had been the paving that we'd originally specified, I don't know. I can't say. Maybe I would still be coming in the front door and putting my shoes there. But we spend our lives taking the shoes from the front door all the way to the boot room and back again. Oh, actually, I need to go out again, back to the boot room, carry them out to the front door. Whereas I do think that if that surface was something a bit nicer out at the back, that I just felt, it's just as easy to go out the back door as it is out the front door, then I'd be doing that. So just something to think on there. Only my own experience. That's all I can talk about. Another thing that I'm not sure I did too well was catching the little things. I suppose I did better than some people, because if you're not on site, you are not going to catch any of the little things. What do I mean by this? Things that actually don't really matter. So why catch them then? Yeah, I'm digging myself a hole here. Take one of the bathrooms. So it had a tiling pattern, and that had started. So they'd started tiling, maybe done about half the bathroom, and we realised that the tiling pattern was actually different from how they were tiling it. It looks great. In fact, in some ways, I wonder whether I prefer it. They're these thin tiles, but they were meant to be tiled almost in crisscross patterns, and instead they've all just been laid horizontally. So at the end of the day, does it really matter? Well, you could just say, rip them all off, this is your mistake, you're not going to go further, you deal with this. Or you could do what we've done and live with it. Now, I don't like the idea of ripping it off, because you wouldn't be able to use those again. And to all intents and purposes, it's absolutely great. But if I had been there when that had started, on the first few tiles, been around a bit more, I might have caught it. And a similar thing, we have a sleeper retaining wall that goes around the house. And we made a decision to split it up into 2 levels, because guess what? The kids would try and jump off it. So by going up in very small increments, we thought that would stop this. And we'd envisaged it being fairly wide apart, let's say 3 or 4 feet. You're quite tight on space, so it may not be that it could be that much. However, the original drawings were sort of, check with the clients what they want. And it had already started, putting them, say, a foot apart, or maybe, a little bit more than that, but not much. So when you've got a certain way around, it's exactly the same thing. So I saw all the effort in there. And the sad part is I think I twigged on this, but because I didn't know my own plans well enough and bothered to check, I called Kay and maybe relayed it really badly as to, is it right? We're having these 2 steps here. Just something doesn't look quite right. So that we just decided to continue around the house. Again, we could have got them to take it all out, but they've gone far enough that it's what I would class as the point of no return. And again, it's not a big thing. I don't even look at it now and think, oh, I wish it was like that. It's just when the children are jumping off it. They're already doing that, but only in one tiny section, and no injuries as of yet. And finally, on what I can bring to mind, this self-build fatigue is a real thing. Now, remembering that we've gone on the cushy route. No, I shouldn't say that. We've gone on one of the easiest procurement routes where you can stay as the client, you can make all the decisions. And still, I have felt myself towards the end just getting tired. And what that means is you take your foot off the gas. Perhaps you go, yes, too easily to certain things. I would like to check the specifications, say, for example, of all the furniture. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from China? Can we find something from the UK? Do this or that. It just got to the point where I was tired. It looks great. get it in the house. Might be checking room sizes for furniture. We knew what furniture we want, and just not doing those little jobs of, actually, let's put it on the floor plan. Let's see what we can fit in. So we came to move in one of our wardrobes and thought, hold on a second, this isn't going to fit here. Why did we not do that? So I do think there's a point on the project where you get tired and maybe you're not performing as well as you might have done in the early stages. You're only human. What I will say at the end of this is any little niggles that you have through the project, like, I'll give you an example, the back door, the hinges were on the wrong side. Checking through the window and door specification is a heck of a job. You've got so many different variables and you're looking at all the small little notes. And so it's one door at the back of the house, and we were able to change all the electrical stuff so that it was on the right side and you don't even notice it. So those sort of things, you get to the end, you are not worried at all. And I think that that's how I have to round off this episode, that I am nitpicking here. Things like having a crunching driveway, for goodness sake, get a grip. You've got a house. There are other people that aren't quite there yet. So I think we have done really well on our project. There are maybe more things I could have done better. But as I say, on this casual sitting down, what I've done is I've walked around the house thinking, what would I change? What should be better? And we're really happy. That number one thing I said about it being a home, that's what happens. It just becomes a home so long as everything works. You obviously build up this snagging defects list. So what you try and do is, if it's not too serious, save it up for that point and do all the jobs in one go. We've got one more payment to make to our main contractor at the end of the defects period. But it's funny, our front door wasn't closing properly. And again, it's one of these little issues that you just, oh no, this is storm in a teacup. The world is ending. And then they came back yesterday and made a few adjustments, and now perfectly clicking. I was worried about all the heat that we might be losing because the door, you had to really push it and it was squeaking and all the rest of it. So all these things, when you come and move in, life moves on. You get back your life. You have to host Christmas. So that's where we're going to end this episode. Maybe from afar, you can see other things that I really did get wrong and you want to point them out. Well, go on then. Let's have a confrontation in the show notes today. houseplanninghelp.com/234. A few photos in there. Mainly it's a recap of those points that I've mentioned. Again, we do all of this to try and make sure that you get it right first time. That's the idea, isn't it? But I do feel we haven't had any major clangers on this project. It was a clanger-free project. Maybe some small things, but no clangers. houseplanninghelp.com/234, and links to everyone that we've mentioned and every resource as we've gone through today. Finish up with a mention for the Hub. I am really enjoying having more time to spend in the Hub, more time to work on the courses that we're going to be bringing to you in the new year. Also, there's another video in there, the first one of my project. All that footage is getting turned around at the moment. So it's quite a long one. We started out with, each month we're going to be updating you with 5-minute videos. This one's 15 minutes long. So this is about the design of the house and how it developed and some of the planning implications and so forth. So there's quite a lot condensed into this one. I will also be doing a finding land story, but that will have to go in later in the process just as we turn things around, because I need to put quite a lot of input into that particular one. But our editor's done a cracking job as always. So take a look. If you're one of our Hub members, that's now in the Hub. And if you're not, what does it mean to be a Hub member? Well, we're trying to design this as a service. You can dip in and out if you want to, like gym membership, but really to produce that outcome of getting you to build the house that you're going to step back at the end of the day and think, wow, this is the house that I wanted. Yeah, there will always be the little things. I don't think you're ever going to eradicate that. But like with me, you're just happy in your home and you haven't got any psychological scarring to take away all the joy of being in this fantastic house. So go and take a look, houseplanninghelp.com/join. Only one more episode on my own house build, and then we're wiping the slate clean. What will we talk about next year? I have no idea. Well, I do actually. We've planned a lot of it already. The House Planning Help podcast is produced by Regen Media, content that matters.